With my current employer, I started out as a mailroom associate. I worked in that role for I couldn't even tell you. Felt like forever. But I was eventually given the opportunity to head a transition from an on-site ERP system to a cloud-based ERP system. And primarily worked in a role of IT project management in that aspect, but I was also still working production. I excelled in that role. We successfully implemented the cloud-based ERP system that even my manager at the time said was not possible. I made it possible. And that's not ego. There was a lot of work, a lot of back and forth with the software vendor to make sure that those things worked. That gave me, or rather turned into the opportunity to become the sole IT project manager for the company. And within a week of me working in the office in that role solely, the pandemic happened. And all key personnel were sent remote. We were remote for almost 2 years. And during that time, I headed projects that saw the conversion of hundreds of clients from legacy software into our more modern infrastructure. But during that time, I also identified a number of process and workflow problems in our company. And I attempted even to spearhead the correction of those problems in my role as a project manager, but was ultimately faced with the wouldn't even call it a decision, but just, we as a small company cannot afford the dev time to give to this project in terms of, a client onboarding system. So I decided to take that upon myself. Full dev, back end, front end, whatever that looked like. And as part of that, I realized that we needed our own API. But the quintessential problem was that the database that our systems use was monolithic in nature. It wasn't concern separated. It was, whatever the new thing that you needed, you just add it to this table. And I took a problem with that. So I resigned myself to relearn JavaScript. And that was tough. I had not really touched any programming language since college. I do have a web technology minor, not web tech in print relation, but rather tech, actual web technology, web design, and I retaught myself JavaScript painstakingly, hours from 8, 9 o'clock at night until 1 or 2 in the morning, or until my brain couldn't function for months. And I didn't just build simple things. I built one thing, a few things, but one thing in particular. And it was a REST API using Express and SQL and stored procedures, just because that's what I knew at the time. But during that process, I involved anyone and everyone that I could from the development team in the decisions that I was making, how I was designing the database, and why I felt like things should be separated in the way that I was separating them. But even during the process, I never really got any feedback. Maybe a sentence or two every 5 meetings or more. And I never really paid any attention to it. I was committed to what I was building, and I saw the value in it. But ultimately, when I felt that the project was ready for a demonstration, and this was after the entire API build, all of the stored procedures, and lots and lots of hours. I also built a front end in React as an admin dashboard where you could, see a list of all of the different things. You could update those, you could delete them, you could do whatever you wanted. And the UI was not fantastic in any way. Looking back, it's pretty atrocious. But it did work. The entire project was monolithic, not great, but it was deployable. Had it in Azure, probably could have done it into an IIS server locally if they wanted. Had JWT authentication, role-based authorization, had 2FA through email, not great, admittedly, but it did work. So fully self-rolled authorization setup. Didn't really know any better, but the crazy thing is when it was actually presented, there was just a lack of enthusiasm at all. It was just skepticism. It was like, how do we get from where we are to there, and what does the implementation of that in our workflow look like? And rather than anyone partnering with me on it, it was just dismissed, really. And that felt like failure. I mean, we were admittedly a mostly C sharp shop. I was introducing JavaScript. No one else knew JavaScript. And again, it felt like failure. I resolved myself to say that if I could teach myself all of those things about JavaScript and Express and authentication, flow, and anything else related to it, why couldn't I teach myself C sharp? So I did. And over the course of really just a few months, I really picked up on what I needed to know. I rebuilt the JavaScript API into C sharp. It was on C sharp 7 or .NET Core 7. And again, had a deployable API. We actually did work on that together as a team, and it was in IIS for a while, but eventually just kind of fell through. Like nobody really wanted to keep up with it. And I knew I knew the power of what I was trying to build, but I don't think anybody else really recognized it. So fast forward to present day, and we now have 2 developers that are in pursuit of CS degrees, whether it's an associate's or whatever, but both of them are now in the throes of learning web development, back-end development, all of those things. And it's kind of crazy to me now because it seems that those people have more of a voice now than I was ever given 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I built an entire back-end API database, all of the stored procedures to deal with those things, an admin dashboard in React that consumed the API, was fully authenticated through the self-rolled auth. And now it's such a strange thing to me to think, where might we have been had the team accepted what I built almost 4 years ago now, and we iterated on it as a team. Rather than it being dismissed. I feel like I'm a full-fledged software developer, but things like this, like what I've described, make me think maybe I'm not.